So 2021 had some great games, and 2022 has the potential to have some real beauties too. And by now, I'm pretty sure that all of you have played all of the best games that released in 2021, right? You've probably all finished them all, haven't you? You did, right? I'm Zion from Nintendo Life, and because you were good last year and you finished everything that you set out to do on your list, we're going to be sharing with you the coolest, the most awesome looking games coming to the Nintendo Switch in the year 2022. Which the more I say it, the more ring it actually has. I don't mind the year anymore. I hated it. But 2022, it's kind of fun. Now, the order that these games appear on this list will, for the most part, be in the order that we think they're going to release, but, you know, things change. It might not actually stick to these exact dates, but we did our best to kind of put them in an order that made sense. So without further ado, let's see what the year 2022 has to offer for the Nintendo Switch. Like many of you, I've been a fan of the Pokemon series ever since I was old enough to hold a marker and learned what a Pikachu was so I could draw it on legitimately everything. But the series hasn't really changed much over the years. Sure, they may have removed gyms at one point and added tons of new Pokemon over the years, but for the most part, the formula has stayed the same. But it looks like we're finally getting the Pokemon open world-ish RPG we've been waiting for, when Pokemon Legends Arceus drops on Switch worldwide on January 28th. Now, this new game is holding on to many of the tried and true staples of the formula, but now you'll be able to roam around large, expansive areas freely to battle and catch Pokemon in the field. No more of these battle transitions that teleport you to an area that doesn't even resemble the area you found the Pokemon in. I hated that so much in Sword and Shield. How you aim your Pokeball and if you decide to sneak up on them or not will also have benefits too, so your Pokeball and their health won't be the only deciding catch factor. Legends Arceus also takes place long in the past, during an era where the first Pokédex was being created, so one of the game's major plot points will actually have you gathering intel on undiscovered Pokemon and bring them back to the research team. It's exciting to be able to get a look at a different era of Pokemon. Hopefully we'll learn more about some of the mysteries that have followed the series over the years. From what we've seen, we're a bit disappointed by the detail in the landscapes, but we'll save our judgment for a review, as there's just still so much that we don't know. What form will multiplayer take? Can we transfer Pokemon in from old games? How does Arceus actually fit into the plot? And can I catch a Bulbasaur? I need a Bulbasaur, so that way I can evolve it into an Ivysaur. You get it, right? Everyone needs an Ivysaur. Catching and battling Pokemon has gotten a bit stale over the years, and this is the first real chance the Pokemon Company has taken to innovate since... Not you. Nope, not you either. Definitely not you. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. So hopefully the core gameplay will just be fun. Discovering new rare Pokemon in caves, noticing a shiny Pokemon off in the distance, and meeting up with your friends and trading are all things that we're excited about. So hopefully it lives up to our expectations and can change the Pokemon game for the better. Like most alternative emo kids in the 2000s, I also grew up skateboarding, which I was kind of terrible at, but I was able to live my full-on skater dreams with video games. Now, there were plenty of plank-pushing games out there, but the ones I had the most fun with were the wacky ones, like Tony Hawk's Underground 2, Go-Go Hypergrind, and the Hall of Meat Ragdoll Wreckfest in Skate 2. So when OlliOlli World was first revealed in that indie showcase way back when, it instantly caught my attention. Dropping on February 8th, this side-scrolling skater takes place in a wild and colorful world inhabited by strange creatures and skate wizards. And the landscapes are full of vibrant colors that'll make you want to reach into your drawer for an ice cream scoop so that way you can dig in and take a big bite. Why don't you tell me that this doesn't look like a great skateboarding game? The art instantly reminded me of Adventure Time, but also of the wild and crazy skateboard art that eventually gets shredded off that board you spent your childhood allowance on. And just like your uncle who still subscribes to Thrasher magazine, the game is full of gnarly skate puns around every corner. There are tons of outfits and styles you can slap on your skater to show off your unique style to everyone online as well. So whether you've been skating for years in real life or in video games, or are just my 3.5-year-old tech deck riding nephew, OlliOlli World is definitely one you should keep your sights on. Then, if we jump ahead to the 4th of March, comes a tactical RPG fans will be happy to hear about, The Brave and the Beautiful Triangle Strategy. Being developed by the creators of Octopath Traveler, the developers have taken their 2.5D pixel art style and have cooked up a brand new tactical RPG that would fit right at home on the PlayStation 1 and N64 era. Even though the N64, I guess, really only had Ogre Battle as far as tactical RPGs go, but still! From what I've learned after playing the demo, the story is fairly adult and dark. Your teammates will be killed in cold blood right in front of your very eyes, and the warring factions and overall art direction remind me a bit of Game of Thrones. Now, if you're like me and picked up Octopath Traveler but felt a little overwhelmed by the branching storyline with multiple characters to choose from, you'll be happy to hear the game follows one group of characters this time around. The story can take different turns based on your dialogue responses, however, so those of you looking for some solid replay value will be pleased. In the age of 3D flashy graphics, we're lucky to see a project like this get so much effort poured into it, especially from a presentation standpoint. Dialogue is fully voiced too, with a great direction. And in just a few months' time, we'll learn if Triangle Strategy can stand up next to the rest of the greats, even with a name like Triangle Strategy. We've been playing the same Mario Kart game for nearly 8 years with Mario Kart 8 and the deluxe version, and it's a fantastic game, but it's gotten a little played out. And sure, there are some rumors about Mario Kart 9 rolling around right now, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Chocobo GP, which is releasing on Nintendo Switch on March 10th. No kart racing game has me more excited than this one because you can rollerblade around as a fluffy yellow fantasy bird. Hey, are you telling me that you wouldn't give this bird your last Phoenix down if it needed it? For those of you unaware, Chocobo GP is the rebirth of the cult classic kart racing game, Chocobo Racing, and the Mario Kart influence is stronger than ever this time around. Now, like we said before, Mario Kart 8 is a great game, so honestly, a different twist on that formula with a Final Fantasy spin is completely welcome. And if you don't want to race as one of the many birds on offer, there are plenty of other Final Fantasy characters to choose from. The roster consists mostly of summons and monsters, a few original characters, but there will be a few main characters to choose from like Terra, Vivi, Steiner, and Sid from the mainline Final Fantasy games. But I'm hoping the story mode gives us more cameo characters like Cloud, maybe Iridia of Final Fantasy IV, or Kain, the Dragoon. Some of you might think that I'm too hyped for this game, but come on, I can't be alone. Let me have my cake. I'm a huge fan of farming games, and no, not the ones where you hop on Uncle Jim's brand new flashy John Deere Profit Max a Tractor 2000. I enjoy the ones with some life, substance, and love. The Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons kind. And while I might not play them as much as I did back before I had a full-time job and other adult things that keep me busy, I still appreciate them. But on March 22nd, that might change as the fantasy-fueled farmer Rune Factory 5 is dropping on Switch. Last year, we were treated to Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town by the same developers, which was fun for a while, but had its share of problems. But Rune Factory is being developed by a different in-house team and is offering up a lot to be excited for. In case you're unaware, the Rune Factory series is actually a spin-off of Story of Seasons, putting a heavy focus on dungeon crawling and monster catching elements. Hopefully they can get the frame rate issues worked out that we see in the gameplay trailers so far, because if so, then we'll probably spend a lot of time with this one. This may come as a surprise for some, but one of my most anticipated games of 2022 is already out on PlayStation 4. But for me, the portability factor of the Switch is unmatched, especially when it comes to playing visual novels and massive RPGs, which is why I'm dying to dive into 13 Sentinels on Switch come April 12th. I've stayed away from the story for the most part to go in spoiler-free, but what I've gathered is that you play as a group of students who are tasked with saving the world from destruction. One of the interesting parts, though, is that you'll have to play through each character's scenario to put the full story together. The majority of the game seems to play out as a side-scrolling adventure game, but there are some top-down RPG battles that you'll have to take part in from time to time as well. Now, the team at Vanillaware have made a name for themselves over the years with their passionate projects like Odin Sphere and Muramasa the Demon Blade, and their most recent game is just as much a work of art as any of their previous ones. You'll likely want to stop to bask in the sun and soak up every little detail of your surroundings. 13 Sentinels looks like the Evangelion video game we never got, and if you played it on PS4, please sing some praise for it down in the comments below. Just keep the spoilers away, or I won't read them. It feels like a dream to say out loud that Switch entries in the WarioWare, Famicom Detective Club, Brain Age, and Metroid series were all announced and released on Switch last year, and all of them were quite fantastic. But there was one particular announcement last year at E3 that nearly gave us a heart attack, and that is the Orange Star Nation.
I thought I heard the Kirby Wars. It's Advance Wars!
And it's taking the form of a remake pack with Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. Now, of course, I was awful at these games as a kid, but there was something so special about commanding these pixelated tanks around a battlefield, all while accompanied by anime-styled commanders and a catchy soundtrack. I would have never placed any hopes in the fact that we'd see this series again, but here we are. Now, these remakes were initially planned to release at the end of 2021 and have slipped into a vague spring 2022 timeframe. But honestly, we're so busy with everything else on our plates at the moment that we don't even really mind giving the famed developers Way Forward a bit more time to get this set of Toy Box troops lined up just right. The art style is a bit of a divisive one, and while I do wish they would have gone with a 2.5D art style instead, I'm just happy to see this series return. I know it holds a special place in the hearts of many, and maybe this is a sign that we'll see more classics return from Nintendo this year too. F-Zero? Kid Icarus? Earthbound? Another game on my backlog for the year 2022 is AI The Somnium Files, a newer murder mystery from the creators of the Zero Escape series, which consists of 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. But this spring, the Switch is being treated to a brand new game in the AI series, AI The Somnium Files nirvanA Initiative. We've only been given a small cinematic trailer so far, so there's not really a lot to go off of beyond a little description on the website, but if you're a fan of the creepy crime detective genre and like a little game of whodunit, it might be worth going back to play the first game before this new one drops. After I'm done with the 2D Metroid games, I swear, AI is the next game I'm going to be taking on. Please, hold me to it. LEGO have a real tendency to pinch our nostalgia bones. Take a look at the Disney Castle sets, the NES that released last year, and now the Sonic the Hedgehog set. But as for the video games, they're typically simple platforming collectathons that you can play with your younger cousins because they can die in-game as many times as they want, and beyond that, they're cool, but they don't really make you feel anything. So I was surprised when I sat down and checked out the latest trailer for LEGO Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Unlike the past games in the LEGO universe, this new Star Wars entry uses a more serious third-person camera, and it looks like it'll play more like The Force Unleashed or Jedi Fallen Order. Characters will still crack jokes left and right, but the cutscenes and gameplay seem to have a more serious tone. The action is front and center, but the developers are making sure we see the heart of the Star Wars series with this remake. The Star Wars saga will contain the stories of all 9 movies as well, so regardless of if someone wants to play as Luke, Rey, Yoda, or maybe even Jar Jar, there's a character in there for every generation. Unfortunately, this game has been delayed a handful of times already though, so we have our fingers crossed the developers can hit their goal this time around. Tell me, when was the last time the Kirby series did something brave and bold? You're not old, you're just a classic. I love you, come on, we go way back. You're not old, I'm old. For the better half of forever, Kirby has been stuck on a 2D plane. Sure, he's changed shape, material, and even piloted a giant mech at one point. And while most Kirby games aren't bad, they're just predictable and a bit too familiar. But in the unspecific date of spring 2022, that's all going to change with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. We can't say for certain if it'll truly be great, but just look at it so far. Kirby gets to run around an abandoned shopping mall in a post-apocalyptic world with these adorable fox creatures. When the trailer was first revealed, I would have never guessed this was a Kirby game, but I'm so into its art style, and the fact that we can finally explore open areas with Kirby is really all I need. Unfortunately, beyond that, we really don't know a whole lot more. We know there are going to be different terrain types to explore, of course. There will be a mix of snowy mountains and dusty deserts with a slew of enemies to gobble up to gain new copy abilities. And while we've yet to hear any word on multiplayer features, we can only hope that there will be something, as couch co-op Kirby goes down quite well. And thankfully, spring is dangerously close, so we won't have to wait much longer. The Nier Automata of the Kirby universe is almost here. Now, we haven't had a great 3D Sonic game in years, and sure, some of you might say that we've never had one, and to that I'll say, well, aren't you original? I liked Sonic Adventure, leave me alone. Now, with the second movie on the horizon, there's a lot of hype out there for Sonic currently, and part of that hype is due to the fact that this new game, Sonic Frontiers, is somewhat of a mystery for a lot of us. Rumors have spread around that this new game is going to have a somewhat open world, or at least have zones that are way larger than anything we've seen in past Sonic games. And one of my favorite parts of Sonic Adventure was just being able to run around the Mystic Ruins, and there were points where you could run so fast that you could run across the tops of trees, and I hope they take that idea and just expand upon it greatly, because that would be incredible. So if Sega can try and take all of the things that made the Sonic Adventure series great, but work out all of the weird kinks, all of the reasons that people don't like them, I think we could have a great game on our hands here. But if somehow, if they forget to implement a Chow Garden, if there's no Chow, then what are we even doing here? Please don't forget the Chow Garden.
Say its name, Xenon. If you do, you'll curse the game forever. Don't you dare say it, you little punk. I mean it.
Hollow Knight Silks?
2022 really is shaping up to be the year for all the big games Switch owners have been waiting for, and Bayonetta 3 is one of them, and it's finally at the end of production, set to release sometime in 2022. With the state of the world, we can't really blame the developers for taking their time to make this game either. We really don't know a whole lot about this new entry beyond the fact that Bayonetta is back with a new set of pigtails that'll drive anyone mad. The combat looks slick as hell, and rightly so with the Platinum Games pedigree. My backlog showcases the Bayonetta series shamefully, but with the third soon on the horizon, I think I'll finally have to dust off the classics and give them a run for their money. For a lot of you, it's probably been years since you've really thought about Digimon. I was a huge fan as a kid, but I definitely fell off the map once I hit high school. I've heard great things though about the past games on Switch, like Cyber Sleuth. They even got the artist for Shin Megami Tensei to lend a hand, but I still never gave it a shot, even with that being said. However, there's something different and darker going on with Digimon Survive. The overworld can be explored sort of like a visual novel adventure, giving you the chance to investigate your surroundings and chat with NPCs, but the battles come to life as tactical scrambles. The most intriguing part of the whole package to me, though, is the hand-drawn direction the whole game is taking. Each environment look ready to be hung up on your wall. Characters are expressive, and the Digimon themselves look like they were taken right out of the show and movies. Unfortunately, we haven't received any substantial updates on the game in a while, so fingers crossed this one can actually survive the odds. And if it does, maybe they'll even change the name to Digimon Survived. Back in 2017, the Switch was gifted with the indie darling Golf Story, a spiritual successor to the Game Boy days of the Mario Golf series. It features a full-on, seriously silly story mode, local multiplayer, and enough golfing greens for you to never feel the need to hit the real-world ones ever again. But honestly, you don't even have to be into actual golf to have enjoyed it. So after the huge success that Golf Story was, the development team decided to do one bigger and announced Sports Story at the end of 2019. And while yes, it is the year 2022 now, the devs have been pouring their everything into this game, doing their best to make every aspect of it bigger and better than they ever could have imagined. Instead of focusing on just one physical activity, in Sports Story, it sounds like the main character kind of gets tired of golf and journeys the world in search of a new sport that excites them. So there will still be golfing, but it looks like you'll be able to play tennis, play disc golf, baseball, volleyball, and a few other sports might sneak their way in too. But if you've played Golf Story, you'll know that this is going to be a crazy game with wacky side quests and stints of randomness. If you need a laugh and want to play a sports game but don't even like sports games, you're in the right place. Launching sometime in the second half of 2022 is a brand new game by the makers of the XCOM series, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Now, I'm not sure how close this story will follow the footsteps of the 1990s comics this team of heroes is based around, but we can tell from the trailers alone that they're definitely holding on to the darker tone of the Midnight Suns. You'll get the chance to customize your own Marvel superhero from the ground up and join forces with Blade, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and more to stop Lilith from doing whatever demonic stuff she has planned. After being treated to the unthinkable Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 a few years back, it's great to see a new set of developers trying something different with a new team of heroes. Comic fans and tactical RPG fans alike should definitely keep their eyes on this one for later in the year. From some of the makers of
The Scott Pilgrim video game
comes a pixelated Heroes in a Half Shell arcade beat 'em up. We're no longer living on Earth. We've ascended. Is this the Matrix? Is my life just some sick simulation made by a weeby comic book gamer? Because if so, I don't even care. Regardless of if you grew up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a kid or not, you can't deny the fact that this game oozes flair and charm. From the individual running animations of the Turtles to the fact you can actually play as April O'Neil, there's a lot to look forward to here. We still have no clue when exactly in 2022 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is dropping, but at least we know this couch co-op brawler should be here soon. If you're a fan of the channel, you're probably already aware that I recently became quite a huge fan of Chrono Trigger, and that Golden Sun is a series I hold near and dear to my heart. So when I heard that a spiritual sort of successor to Chrono Trigger was being developed with astrological elements that reminded me of Golden Sun, I knew I had to back it on Kickstarter immediately.
So I did.
It's not often that we get a turn-based RPG that tries to capture that original Chrono magic, and while it would be an incredible feat to surpass that, there's a lot going right for this one that makes us really hopeful. The art is stunning, featuring a dynamic lighting system, and the soundtrack is being composed by a mix of Rainbow Dragon Eyes and Yasunori Mitsuda, the composer of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Now that I've actually finished Chrono Trigger, I feel fully ready to take this game down later this year. But also, this game takes place in the world of The Messenger, and I still have that game on my backlog. Gah, there's never enough time in a day to play all these games. It's insane to see how far the Splatoon series has come. Nintendo went out on a limb and produced this wonderfully smooth and exciting brand new shooter, and the world ate it up, so much so that we got a sequel. And then that got a story expansion, and now it's essentially a flagship series for Nintendo. Which means we're getting Splatoon 3, of course, later this year. And the online multiplayer modes are packing some new levels and weapons, like this crazy cool hookshot ability. Now, we're unsure how things are going to shake out with the story, but it looks exciting nonetheless. I'm hoping we'll see some more immersive level design this time around, instead of just hopping around floating fort-like platforms. I enjoyed the second game's campaign, but I just want to roam around a full city as an Inkling, blasting ink all over the place. And hopefully Splatoon 3 makes my dreams come true. A few years back, THQ Nordic surprised us all by scooping up the rights to make a bunch of classic cartoon IP video games, one of which ended up being a fully blown remake of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. And it seems like that must have been a test, as now Purple Lamp Games, the developers of that remake, are working on a brand new game for our favorite under-the-sea sponge, SpongeBob SquarePants Cosmic Shake. We haven't really seen gameplay yet, but from the teaser trailer, it looks like the game is going to span many generations generations of the SpongeBob universe. We'll get to test out our kung fu skills against Sandy, roll around on boulders in the prehistoric age, live life as a snail, and ride along in the Wild Wild West with our boy Balloon Patrick, always by our side. It's been a while since SpongeBob had a great new platforming adventure, but after the success Rehydrated was, we've got high hopes for this new cosmic tale. Now, it might be a little too early to be talking about this one, but I'm just so excited about the potential. Even after Celeste came out and surprised the world, the developers at Extremely OK Games kept creating modes and levels. They kept pumping new content into Celeste. But now, they're finally hard at work at their next game, Earthblade. For how many times I died in Celeste, you'd think that I would have walked away from it without glowing remarks, but for how well the game does about rewarding you and making you feel good about your achievements, that's why I can't wait to play what they have cooking next. One of the only things we've actually seen here is the key art, and I just want to live in that world. I want to find the Earthblade, I want to wield it, I want to defend it, whatever it is, I just want to find out.
Please take the time to make a game that you're absolutely proud of, and we'll play the heck out of it when you're ready.
Are you out of your mind? There's absolutely no way this game could be finished this year. I mean, for God's sake, we still don't even have the trilogy. What is wrong with you?
Metroid Prime.
Metal Slug has always been known for its quarter-munching run-and-gun action, but this time around, the developers of Streets of Rage 4 are taking an Advance Wars-style crack at this one by bringing us Metal Slug Tactics.
I'm just now realizing there are quite a few tactical RPGs on this list, but hey, I'm an RPG guy, and that's okay.
So far, the pixel art is my favorite detail. You can tell the developers are doing everything they can to make this not only a celebration of just the Metal Slug series, but the Neo Geo itself as well, with all of the King of Fighters and Samurai Showdown Easter eggs sprinkled throughout. 2022 really is shaping up to be another great year for not only gamers, but for RPG fans in general. Over the holidays, on my travels back home, I actually made it through the entirety of the first Oxenfree in just an afternoon, and the touching yet eerie story they managed to tell had me wishing I could go back and play it again. And I could, but I have other games I want to play right now, so I won't, so someday I will play it again. But maybe by the time that ever rolls around, Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals will finally be here. This point-and-click adventure looks like it's going to be full of just as many spooky vibes as the original, and follows a brand new cast of characters. Now, if you haven't played the original, I highly recommend you do, as it seems to go on sale on the eShop fairly often. And if you enjoyed enough, you'll have another spoonful of radio frequency manipulating madness to keep you up late at night very soon. Good luck. Nintendo has us convinced that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is releasing this year, and if so, it'll be something every Switch owner has at the top of their holiday list.
Unless they buy it at launch, which, let's be real, we probably will all buy the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at launch.
But how can you top one of the best Nintendo games ever made? That initial magic you feel when running out onto the Great Plateau and realizing you have this unique world to explore to your heart's desire. You'll encounter familiar but new enemies, forge new bonds, and find new weapons and armor all over the place. It was just simply magic. And the idea of being able to do that all over again is extremely exciting. So of course our expectations are high, but there's still so much that we don't know, even with the few trailers that we've seen. Is Link actually okay with that whole magic arm thing? What happened to Hyrule? Are the floating land masses in the present or in the past? Where did they come from? Is Ganon truly back, or did his body just reanimate briefly? With Zelda free of his clutches, what sort of role will she play in the game this time around? We have so many questions. We're just scratching the surface. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that Nintendo is strictly designing this game for one system this time around, well, at least from what we know, unlike Breath of the Wild, which was released on Wii U and Switch. So maybe this time around we'll get a more graphically impressive game since the devs have had more time to play with the hardware, or maybe we'll see more unique puzzles and ideas that could only work on Switch. And knowing the Zelda team and the fact that they put a strange little puzzle in Phantom Hourglass where you actually had to close and reopen the system means that they're probably going to do everything they can to surprise us with Breath of the Wild 2 on Switch.
And there you have it, 25 games that we can expect to see release on the Nintendo Switch in the year 2022. Feel free to let us know in the comments down below which games you're most excited to get your hands on. Of course, like I mentioned, I'm pretty excited for Kirby, even though we still haven't seen a whole lot. I just kind of like the mystery of not really knowing much about that game. I just want to get thrown in, explore, find some cute little animals, eat everything in sight. I also really want to play 13 Sentinels on the go. I know I have it already on PS4, but I'd rather just play it in a handheld form. You know, drop all of your thoughts like that in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you go ahead and fix up that subscribe button so that way it's in tip-top shape to be released in the year 2022. And then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up a new video. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for sticking with us all these years, especially into this new year. We had a great year last year, releasing all sorts of weird stuff. We did a lot of retro things, we did a lot of Switch stuff, but it was great to just see you there with us again and again. So thank you for watching. I'm Zian from Nintendo Life, stay safe out there, and we will see you next time.